Hello, everybody, and welcome to this session. This session is called Crossing the Rubicon and Delivering Long-Term Value from Process Mining, and it's the keynote for the Process Mining and BPM Digital Summit. My name is James Denning. I'm the CEO of Mineit, one of the world's leading process mining companies, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Tet Luchmas, Head of Data and Analytics and Automation in Group Finance at Stora Enso. Tet, hello.
Hello, James.
So, Tet, tell us about Stora Enso and tell us a bit about your background.
Right. Hello. Thank you for inviting. Great to be here. Stora Enso is a leading global provider of renewable solutions in packaging, biomaterials, wooden construction, and paper. We have around 23,000 employees and we have
Mhm.
sales in more than 50 countries. Our solutions cover plastic free materials, carbon neutral building, sustainable print, natural cosmetics, personal care, and many more. Innovation never stops here. I recommend to watch the video from YouTube called What a Tree Can Do. Myself, I'm working in group finance, where we have a dedicated team for automation and analytics. Our two key assets are our very good people and high quality source data. Source data is a raw material for any kind of production we do in our team in order to deliver business value. My own background is pure IT. I have studied it for 8 years, then worked in telecommunication business for 7 years, leading different projects and teams, and last 9 years now in group finance of Stora Enso.
Okay, very good. I'm always fascinated when people talk about data within a business. For me, data is that lifeblood of any company. You know, we harness that data to try and drive the best out of our business to make sure we understand, what those business decisions are and the best way to make them. We're here today to talk about process mining. When did you first become, aware of process mining?
Yeah, well, it was a few years back when process mining came to our radar first time when during bigger project, one of external consultant company used process mining tool and data from our ERP system to visualize B2B process. It was about process discovery, first of all. We knew that the process had many variances and exceptions there, uh, but it was then eye-opening to see it in front of us based on real data. And from the other hand, we saw the potential for improvement. The whole
Mhm.
end-to-end process was suddenly in front of us, visualized, ready to be analyzed, measured, drilled down to the details. So I think that was a starting point.
And what were the kind of key parts of that? What were the business drivers that prompted you to build out a fully fledged project?
Yeah, yeah. First of all, when we defined ITL process view, compared it with actual, it then side branches became nicely visible, and it was possible to deep dive into the key issues of those side branches. And also, it looked
Mhm.
easy to prioritize each and every finding what could possibly come out from there because we saw the volumes or amount wise or different other characteristics what took a bigger share in one or another side of the process branch. And on particular unwanted event, we saw possibility to improve, drill down into the details, etc. Uh, and of course, after such discovery phase, you immediately want to start fixing, improving, as process mining is very much also going to beyond discovery phase and helps to find root causes so that define the way forward. And the main business
Okay.
drivers for us still, if I mention them, is about removing the unnecessary manual work, harmonizing the
Mhm.
processes, and detecting automation improving opportunities, and eventually to get the monetary benefits out of all.
Got it. Because at the end of the day, when we're trying to improve processes, we are trying to, we want to those better business outcomes. And interesting there to hear you talk about, automation or to how process mining can be used to find automation opportunities.
Yeah.
This is something we hear again and again. As we all know, software automation, RPA, all the various phases of it has turned into a huge category over the last 5 or 6 years. I come from that world, and I've always thought process mining is it's like a precursor to a lot of those
Mm.
things. So it's interesting to hear you talk about that.
Yeah.
Stora Enso, you're a Minec customer. Thank you very much for that. How did you come to start working with us? How did we kind of come across your radar?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't myself part of that phase. It was a bit hard then to recall the times back. I guess there was a RFP phase in place according to regular purchasing process. But what I can tell for sure that we are very happy with our cooperation today.
Yep, that's very good to hear. And you know where I am if you ever become less happy, and I'll always see what I can do. Let's move on a bit to some of the you've talked about some of the benefits in quite a high level. But what are the biggest benefits that you're seeing already from using our software, from using Minit as your process mining platform?
Yeah, I must tell, in reality, it takes some time after you get your findings listed, prioritized, and eventually implemented something in practice. But first results have become visible though. For instance, in one of our entities, automation ratio jumped up by 16% just in 1 month. That means immediate relief to the team doing manual activities, and of course for us it was very rewarding to see such an impact from our activities. And another example, during 3 months project, we detected rather scattered automation opportunities. Eventually ended up around in 12% of increase. And I wish that was that linear going forward, but we need to be realistic. So let's see how it actually will proceed. And we keep monitoring the progress via our KPIs.
Okay, very good. Is there anything that surprised you?
Well, during the projects what we have conducted so far, some findings do have been surprising, what we didn't know before. Like one thing was that automated upstream steps caused higher automation rate in downstream part of the same process. As process mining allows easily to split the process vertically based on defined filters and then deep dive into the characteristics of both parts. Then this way you can really understand what is driving different behavior in one part of the process compared to another. So, and having such facts eventually at hand, it's much easier to negotiate with the stakeholders who have the key to implement these changes in real life.
I think something we see a lot is exactly that, where you have complex processes. Sometimes managing the relationships between those stakeholders, where something that one stakeholder does might impact on part of the process that isn't owned by them anymore. That additional complexity and the ability to easily visualize that complexity and show those effects is something that process mining is very good at. What were some of your learnings that you took away from that?
Well, what we obviously learned is that cooperation with different departments and stakeholders is a vital thing. We should involve them actually from the beginning and onboard them to the topic. And there are quite few reasons, good reasons to do that in my mind. When we create the event log or start creating event log, which is then basis for process mining, any kind of conducting investigations, analysis, then we need to understand how process logic is reflected in the data tables and relations of the tables. So we need process experts and ERP specialists help there, definitely. Then during the actual workshops, the real results, good results only come when we work in cross-functional team. We do have data and analytics skills. We know process mining as a tool, but together with process experts, we need to look at the potential findings together and evaluate why do we see what we see and what does it mean actually. So process expert, we think and have experienced that bring valuable context to evaluate those findings. And eventually they decide what is a real finding and what is just a feature in the process. And eventually, I think that it all makes sense only when detected improvements are then really executed in the practice. Where when we talk about end-to-end processes, this is where we need help from different stakeholders. And this is what I would call the biggest learning so far.
Okay, very good. one of the features we're very proud of is our use of AI in the product, especially around root cause analysis. So, what role did that AI powered root cause analysis? What role did that serve for you?
Well, yes, we did use root cause analysis in one of our process mining projects. It helped us to understand what is the impact of more categorized approach in purchase order creation phase to whole case duration. I mean, until the moment when invoice gets successfully posted in ERP. By following the groups in decision tree created by the tool, it helped to understand what characteristics or dimensions had the biggest impact to the case duration. I think so far that has been our experience with RCA.
Okay, very good. Do you have specific targets attached to this project? What does success look like? What do you think the potential of where you're going is?
Right. Okay, well, what is driving process mining on our side is that specific targets we have more business and process related, and process mining is a very good tool in order to move towards these targets. And also process mining is seen as one of key contributors to our process automation goals. And how the success
Okay.
looks like for us is really that we see things improving via KPIs as mentioned before. So something goes up or something goes down according to our wishes.
Got it. So, as well as those kind of concrete KPIs, what other benefits have you seen? Aside from just improving those specific processes.
Yeah, that's really good question. Actually, by making data available from different sources, we do a lot of invisible work in creation of the data models and apparently starting from getting the source data in place from different sources, and that can be seen as investment for the future. And eventually, the same data models can be available to the other projects, to other teams in the company. And when you talk about end-to-end views of B2B or OTC processes, those may serve the other purposes like fraud detection or internal audit programs. And I think another benefit is a possibility to start continuously monitoring your processes based on automated data pipelines and scheduled refreshes in a tool. So, because from that moment onwards, it doesn't require too much efforts any longer. So we, on our side, we are getting ready to set up this kind of automated monitoring soon. And perhaps one example is that good effect from combining process mining and automation, where we had to select frequently used suppliers for one of RPA projects, development projects, and suppliers should then follow a rather standardized process instead of falling to the side branches there. It was important because we didn't want to code complex logic and exceptions to the RPA. So that was really helpful. So that on top of existing process mining views already, it was rather quick exercise to understand if supplier process is following spaghetti or lasagna type of diagram. So that was one of these findings.
Very good. Always a tricky question, but talk to me about return on investment. How were you able, and if so, how were you able to measure the return on investment from your process mining project?
That is really 10-point question. Right. Thank you, James. Been thinking about it actually from the beginning of year when we restarted this kind of journey of process mining in a company. And what we have experienced so far, I'm happy to share. For example, eliminating work or rework by analyzing loops in our processes is definitely a thing what helps to return on investment. Then improving timeliness of order flow or invoice flow, definitely. Standardizing processes as that contributes to simpler automation. Also eliminating unwanted process steps, as already mentioned before. So, and understanding the root causes of longer invoice handling cases can be one on our example, and also mentioned before that discovering automation potential by looking at repetitive rule-based steps completed manually by users. But very basic to say, but in achieving return on investment, is that once we improve something in practice, savings keep repeating every month, every quarter, every year. So of course, by assuming that we keep monitoring our process and acting if something goes towards unwanted direction.
Got it. So that continued ability to monitor your processes and change accordingly, that's the gift that keeps on giving. That's that long-term benefit. Let's talk a bit about the future. Let's talk about what's next. So how do you propose to scale up your use of process mining within Storaenso?
Yeah, yeah. That journey on our side, I think, we'll continue building center of excellence for process mining, helping process teams, business teams also to get hands-on with process mining on their side. We have good example already when our teams of AP process they combine process analyst and accountant role, and they have become already independent in a tool that have passed different trainings and workshops there. We get them on board via helping at the beginning more, but now gradually they become more and more independent. So that's, I think, a good example for scaling up, and looking forward to do that more, because having process expert there hands-on with a tool, that advantage is that data tells much more to the people who know their processes. And what is also good winning from this kind of scale up, I see that it helps to avoid our own team to becoming a bottleneck really fast when new process mining streams appear in a pipeline.
I mean, some of those things will sit inside your part of the business, but there's also some areas there that will be outside, group finance. How are you planning to take your success to the rest of the business?
There are a few thoughts going around. Perhaps worth to mention here is that if we split order to cash process into parts, and then we're going to take a deeper look on logistics part of the order fulfillment process, and also we're going to check how it's possible practically to utilize this end-to-end related process mining data models for audit benefits. Also, I think during pandemic times when traveling is less frequent, then utilizing data views, that becomes a huge advantage.
Okay. What do you think some of the really important areas? What are some of the key areas in the business that you think will benefit from process mining? And I suppose the opposite question, are there any areas where you think process mining won't be useful?
Yeah, I've been giving some thought to that as well. So I would like to start from the latter part, there areas where it doesn't work. Actually, I think that no one should force to use process mining at any cost, because first of all, when we have some question from the stakeholders, we try to understand actually the business challenge, what they want to resolve, because there are different tools available there, like task mining, data mining, etc. So when we want to analyze concrete event in the process, we use different techniques. When we want to understand and analyze a sequence of the steps or events in the process, the correlations and dependencies, then I think as a good to have this process mining in our portfolio.
I mean, it's interesting because I hear people almost, equating saying process mining and task mining, pretty much the same thing. For me, they're very, very
Yeah.
different. And as you say, they serve very, very different roles within a company. What's the holy grail? What's the end point you really want to get to?
Yeah, that's again a very good question. We do have some long-term goals in mind regarding process mining. The one of those you mentioned here could be that what we want to achieve is a near real-time process monitoring and acting promptly based on the findings coming up to sustain our achieved automation levels, etc. And also scaling up in a whole company level is one of the targets, so that that we will more and more serve as a center of excellence here. And also what we've seen rather important is to set up information and action flows between internal and external process participants, especially when we're talking about end-to-end process improvements. We need different stakeholders, different parties, including customers, suppliers, to contribute there in an automation ratio, which also serves positive effects on their side, I guess.
And again, it comes back to that, that communication, those complex process with multiple stakeholders. Okay, what's stopping you? Is there where's the resistance?
I think this is iterative journey, and we would like to, on our side, to make every step also financially visibly beneficial. I think this agile approach works here as well, that every step we take towards the ultimate goal also will be separately defined, measured, and so that as soon as it starts delivering value, we continue with the next step. So that said, we must be patient, but very persistent in our journey. And when you asked about the resistance, I'm happy to say that no resistance as such, just that we need to be aware when we start that things take time. To get high quality source data with frequent enough updates, development of data models may take some time. If there is insufficient level of documentation about the data, source data, that may slow down the progress. And eventually also, as mentioned many times today before, coming to agreement with stakeholders is also very vital and may take some time to align and sync.
Got it. I mean, one of the key stakeholders in any project like this is going to be IT. Did you have specific support, specific business support offered by your IT department?
Yes, and happy to say that we have dedicated person from IT who is aware of our requirements, our environment, and also direction where we want to head. So support from IT is very much needed from that end to keep process mining infrastructure up and running and up to date. Besides those changes, what from process mining come as a findings towards changing the systems or fixing the systems. So there we need IT alignment as well, definitely.
Got it. We've got a couple of minutes left, Tet, and I'd like people to be able to take away something concrete. If you could do this again, what would you do differently?
Yeah, I think a couple of our very first process mining projects would go faster because, as again, this stakeholder stuff, involving them early enough, then by today we have learned how to prepare better for workshops with experts. As during the very first steps, what you take with a process expert and stakeholders together in the workshops, we put more emphasis on and focus on preparing the views, the potential findings, so that in the workshops together we will come more to analyze them and less spend together in the tool, clicking here and there and trying to find the potential findings, so that we prepare this kind of views ourselves first, so that sessions together with stakeholders will be more efficient.
Okay. And are there any pitfalls that you'd avoid, if you did it again?
One thing I would recommend is really to start from making a list of topics we want to cover with the process mining. That helps in many ways. First of all, you understand what other stakeholders or experts we need in the sessions, and also is data model supporting all the topics we are going to investigate. And another thing perhaps is to agree beforehand on what to focus during each session. Because in a tool where you have lots of information and possibilities to click and drill down, it's so easy to get lost. So better to have the topics in front of you for each session, and if the new topics appear, just add them to the list. And eventually, we try to make sure that for every detected improvement today, what we come up with, we know how to proceed with. I mean, towards actual implementation in the practice, because this facilitates the path towards actual improvements and contributes to return on investment as well.
Got it. Tet, we're out of time. That's been really, really interesting actually to hear all that. I always think, having been in this industry for a while, nothing beats actually hearing from people who are really doing it. From companies who are actually rolling out this sort of technology. All I can say is thank you very much for your time. You're a wonderful customer to have. We look forward to seeing you reap the rewards of your process mining work with our platform as we go into the future.
Thank you, James.
Thanks
Good
very
luck.
much.